Avoid cancer for life. OptOutCancer.com. I have an extraordinary message for you today if you've been diagnosed with cancer or are afraid of getting cancer one day. The message, simple but powerful, and you will immediately see why it's true. You can opt out of cancer. You don't have to choose to live with cancer. It doesn't mean that if you have cancer that you chose to have it. What I'm saying instead is that you can choose to eliminate cancer, you can choose to prevent cancer, you can choose to avoid cancer. Cancer is one of the most preventable diseases in the history of disease. And in fact, you're going to see here in this presentation and other videos in this series how you can choose to live a life completely free of cancer. Even if you've been diagnosed with cancer right now, most people who've been diagnosed with cancer can overcome it by choice. But in order to make a choice, you have to have knowledge. You have to be aware that you have a choice. And that's something that the cancer industry and the medical industry doesn't want you to know. They try to convince you that cancer is a spontaneous disease, that is, a disease without cause, which is fascinating because in the realm of science, and I'm a scientist, I run a science lab, I'm a published science author, much more. I'll share with you some of my background. In science, we know that every effect has a cause. There's no such thing as spontaneous magic. If you have a disease, there had to be a cause that led to it. And in the case of cancer, it had to be growing and multiplying in your body for many, many years before it could be diagnosed. In many cases, cancer has been growing in someone's body for 20 years, or sometimes even more, before they're ever diagnosed. And then at that point, the doctor tries to tell them, oh, you suddenly have cancer, like getting struck by lightning. And they often tell patients, well, there's nothing you could have done to stop it. Well, do you have a history of cancer in your family? They'll say, oh, it's your genes' fault. That's a lie. And in this course, I'll show you why that's a lie, and I'll show you why you have the power to overcome cancer and to avoid or eliminate cancer from your life forever. So my name is Mike Adams. I'm the publisher of Cancer.news. I'm also the publisher of NaturalNews.com. I'm almost 50 years old, and I used to be borderline type 2 diabetic. I overcame diabetes, and I did that by turning to nutrition and getting educated about foods. Now, there are 3 men in my family who died of cancer. And sadly, they died of cancer before I became aware of the information that I'm about to share with you. I was literally at the bedside of my grandfather as he was dying and took his last breath and died of lung cancer in his case. It was horrific to see a man that I loved waste away in a hospital bed at an age that I now know to be far too young to die of anything. He was barely 60. If I had known then what I know now, I could have shared information with him that could have saved his life. And my mission for the last 20 years has been to share information with the world, information that can help save lives and help people prevent disease and live better quality lives. And I've shown people how to avoid cancer, literally millions of people. We reach over, 7 million people per month right now on our content network. Each year we reach tens of millions of people. Probably in my life's work in this arena, we've reached over 100 million people worldwide easily. And people tell me all the time, they were diagnosed with sometimes stage 4 cancer. And then they turned to my website, Natural News, and they got informed, and they changed their diet, and they changed their exercise, and they changed their vitamin D intake and things like that I'll talk about. And now they are cancer-free. I'm talking about stage 4 cancer cases that are now 100% cancer-free. Because they made a choice. They made a choice to live without cancer, even though they had been diagnosed and they had been told, oh, you have to have chemotherapy and you have to have radiation or you have to have surgery or you're going to die. Because the cancer industry, which is a for-profit industry, uses fear to sell poison. Because chemotherapy is poison. It's a chemical weapon system. It's actually based on mustard gas chemicals from World War I. And that's why it kills patients. It's estimated there are 1 million people a year killed by chemotherapy around the world, but those deaths are always blamed on cancer, not chemo, even though it's the chemo that kills the patient. It's the chemo that causes the nausea and the vomiting, and your hair falls out, you lose muscle mass, damages your brain, damages your kidneys, damages your heart. There's even a term for it. It's called chemo brain, when your brain stops working correctly because you've been poisoned with chemotherapy. Well, these are not the solutions for preventing cancer. The solutions are things that I'll share with you here in this course. And so, welcome to the course. It's a series of videos, and you'll be able to find all of these videos and many more at a new website we're launching called optoutuniverse.com. Now, why Opt-Out Universe? It's a very powerful philosophical principle that I need to share with you up front. Opt-Out Universe means that you're living in a universe where, as I've discovered, most people's diseases and problems in life are things that they inflicted upon themselves. Most people, in other words, are one way or another complicit. Usually unknowingly, they didn't have the knowledge, but they're complicit in their behavior for producing the results that they're now experiencing, whether it's money and finance or job or relationships. And I'm talking about both good results and bad results. You are the one person who has the most control over your life. And yet you've been denied the knowledge that you need to prevent disease because there is a system of medicine and a system of disinformation known as the media that's run by the pharmaceutical industry, by the way, that wants to keep you, medically illiterate. They want to keep you away from the truth. They don't want you to understand that cancer is one of the easiest diseases to prevent and in many cases reverse without turning to toxic chemotherapy.